Part 134. The Reborn Wife is Farming. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 1333. Chi-Heiran, who was full of anger and wanted to rush in to find the two children to settle accounts, couldn't help but startled. His face became more and more ugly, but he stopped rushing in, but hesitated at the door for a long time. Seeing that the room was also silent, he opened the door and went in. Mu Yangling was wondering whether to agree to the request of his sons. She agrees with her son's point of view in her heart. If the two children are 4 or 5 years older, she will definitely set off firecrackers and send them to the Navy to serve in the Navy. But at this time, they are not even 15 years old. She knew in her heart that children matured earlier in ancient times, so it cannot be denied that her son was physically under 15. Mu Yangling discussed and said, "Why don't you wait until you are 18 years old to make a decision? I will agree no matter where you are going at that time." 18 years old and we are old, Huda shouted, "Didn't you say that you should take advantage of your ambitions? We followed Dad and learned everything we should learn. The rest depends on our accumulation. We are now staying in Beijing. What else can you do? Brother can go to the battlefield with you at the age of 13. Why can't we go now that we are 2 years older than him?" Recovering the Northland back then was much more dangerous than the current naval battle, the little lion also shouted. "Because your elder brother went with me and your father, but you two have to go by yourself. Chi-Heiran is number 1 in land battles, and Mu Yangling is also good at the moment. With the two of them protecting their son, and Xiaoxiang's own ability, they are 90% sure that they can bring Xiaoxiang back safely, but these two boys are to run to the sea. There are too many accidents above, and if one is not careful, as long as a person falls into the sea, it is too difficult to survive in the vast sea, let alone in a war zone." No matter how much Mu Yangling respected the children's opinions, it was impossible not to consider their safety. But the tempers of the two children are the same as Chi-Heiran's. They are as stubborn as bulls when they recognize one thing, and if they refuse flatly, maybe they can play the scene of running away from home. Mu Yangling was tangled. Chi-Heiran strode directly into the inner room, and said to her in a deep voice, "Let them go." Chi-Heiran said, "They are right, they are my sons, and it is their responsibility to protect the family and the country. I didn't say not to let them go, I just let them grow up. You can join the army at the age of 14. They are just on the line at this age. Others can enter the barracks, so why can't they enter?" Seeing Chi-Heiran's ugly face, Mu Yangling glanced at the two anxious sons again, sighed immediately, waved his hand and said, "Go out, I'll talk to your father." The two teenagers looked at each other and quickly slipped out. Mu Yangling lifted the quilt and grabbed Chi-Heiran's hand. Seeing that his face was still ugly, he asked, "Are you angry with the children?" Chi-Heiran shook his head, "A newborn calf is not afraid of tigers. When I was young, I was not afraid of anything. I don't blame them. It's just that those foreigners are too ignorant. They passed by so many merchants, and they only stared at Daki's merchant ships. If it weren't for this, these two boys wouldn't be thinking about going to the sea to fight." Brightly vented his anger. The words of the two children reminded Chi-Heiran of when he was 12 or 13 years old. At that time, he was younger than the two children. Didn't he go to Dajin's territory to spy on the military situation? Accidentally killed Dajin's prince. No one can say that what he did was wrong, but neither can they say that he did the right thing, because it was only one step away back then. Not only would he die, but Dajin would find out that it was him who did it. Compared with the situation in terms of strength, he will not only cause the great Zhou to perish and become a sinner through the ages, but he will also be implicated by him so that all the families of the Qi family will be ransacked. Based on Emperor Jinjian's character and his fear of Dajin, this is a 100% situation. So it's a matter of 1 foot in heaven and 1 foot in hell. It can only be said that he was lucky. He can do this kind of thing, The two children are his kind, it is more understandable for them to want to run to the sea to resist the enemy. Chihayron felt that if someone dissuaded him back then, he would not have listened. Didn't he just sneak there without telling his elder brother back then? Chihayron felt empathy for the children, so he stopped blocking them, but it didn't mean he didn't make some arrangements. The water skills of the two children are good, but the water skills of the guards and dark guards who follow them are not so good. Chihayron couldn't send them all on board. So Chihayron chose two dark guards who were good at teaching water and good at martial arts, and followed the two children from dark to bright. At this time, it is more expensive and less expensive. It would be wrong to think that Chihayron only has this arrangement. His military strategy has always been, the best defense is to attack. The foreigners only robbed the merchant ships of the Chi people, but let go of the merchant ships of the Western merchants. The purpose is obvious. They are playing the Han people for fools. Chihayron sneered and wrote letters in his study. His favorite thing to do was to treat others in his own way. Isn't it just pirates? Western earls and dukes can do it. They are more shameless. Those with titles will naturally not do this kind of thing, but it is still possible to help a few pirates to deal with Westerners. Back then when he wiped out pirates, many of them were fishermen along the coast of Daki. He recruited them again for training. He gave them boats, bows, arrows, knives, and guns, and even cannons. Anyway, some retired from the army. The old cannon, throwing away is also a waste. Send all these people to the Indian Ocean, and they will be robbed if they encounter a foreigner's ship. Let you also experience the hardships of our Daki merchants. Then they will be rewarded according to their merits, and when they have accumulated enough military exploits, they will be recruited to return to the army to take up military positions. It is not impossible to send them to military schools for advanced studies if they perform well. Chihayron secretly sneered while holding back his conspiracy. In addition, Chihayron also gave Jojo an order to develop maritime business and specially escort Daki's merchant ships to sea, and collect a certain amount of gold and silver after they are safe, which can be regarded as a reward for the soldiers. In order to prevent the soldiers from risking their lives, and the enthusiasm for naval battles is not high, he also clearly marked the price, saying that any merchant ship that can be snatched back from the pirates will be rewarded with 20% of the value of the goods on board, even if it is Joe's ship. It will last for 3 months, and after 3 months, this decree will be cancelled, and the Navy will go to battle again to represent Daki and protect the people of Daki. In order to make this decree effective, Chi Ziyuan also wrote a letter to the patriarch of the Zhou family, asking him to communicate with the Daki merchants who were robbed and do their work, and at the same time, he ran to the palace and asked the emperor to put a stamp on it. Chi Ziyuan stared at this decree for a long time, and finally said, "If I don't cover it, what will happen to me if I cover it?" Only then did Chihayron's feverish head cool down slowly, and then he carefully looked at his elder brother's face and said, "Why don't you get my badge? Prince Rong's badge is still prestigious, right?" Chi Ziyuan snorted and didn't express any opinion, which was regarded as tacit agreement. Chihayron immediately ran back home and stamped his own seal, and ordered the letter to be sent to Guangzhou in a hurry. By the way, he packed up his 2 sons and drove them out. The reborn wife is farming. Author, Yu Zhu. Chapter 1334. The Little Lion and the Tiger had rushed to Guangzhou almost on the same day as Gongwen. The news that Prince Rong ordered the navy to dispatch troops spread throughout Guangzhou in an instant. The businessmen stranded in Guangzhou burst into tears and were very grateful to Prince Rong. They have already set a delivery time with the merchants in the Western Ocean. At this time, pirates in the Indian Ocean are rampant, and they will definitely be robbed when they deliver the goods. Expensive liquidated damages. Businessmen love money, but they also cherish their lives. In the past few days, there are still businessmen who venture into the sea, but most of them are stranded in Guangzhou, hoping to find a way to achieve both. It's not that no one has the idea of the Navy, but the Indian Ocean is too far away from Guangzhou, and the Navy must obtain the signature of the Ministry of War if it wants to dispatch, otherwise it will be a capital offense to deploy troops without permission. Chi Heiran was so happy that the merchants were so happy when the order was written. The escort fee was clearly marked on it, but it was very expensive to take it out. It's not expensive anymore. The merchants who wanted to go to sea sent the money to the Navy Yamen without blinking. The sailors were also very happy. The general said that all the soldiers who go to war will have a share of the money. If people die in battle, the money will be sent to their families along with the pension. Zhou Shen will guarantee or implement it in place with the personality of the prince. The soldiers suddenly had no worries. The soldiers who were still reluctant to participate in the war immediately tried their best to transfer to the vanguard battalion. Although everyone has money, even the soldiers who stay behind have a share, but the amount of money is related to their position and effort. But the merchants whose goods have been robbed are more happy than these two. As long as they lead the way, the Navy of Daki will help them get the goods back, and they only need to pay 20% of the value of the goods. What moved them most was the matter of Prince Rong's 3-month deadline. From their point of view, Prince Rong was afraid that the Navy in Guangzhou would shirk him, so he purposely used this to motivate them. After all, the goods snatched back 3 months later are not included in this list, and it will be completely obligatory for the Navy to suppress the bandits at that time. Not only the merchants thought this way, but also the officers and soldiers in the Navy's Yamen, but they felt that the prince was generating income for them. After all, the robbed goods have been counted at nearly 3 million taels. How much of this is 20%? Ordinary soldiers with little military pay said their hearts were jumping out uncontrollably. Businessmen are never the only ones who can be expelled by interests. Soldiers dare to bet their lives. What made Dachi's morale even stronger was that the prince's 2 sons were put on the clothes of the captain of the flag and arranged into the forward battalion. The prince even sent his own son to the forward camp, which shows how confident they are in this battle. Morale was at an all-time high. Andrei could feel the excitement of Qi people without going to the street. Paul came in from the outside and said respectfully, "My lord, the news has been sent out, so I don't know if they will follow the advice and avoid it." Andrei stood in front of the window with his hands behind his back, and said with a smile, "It's okay, even if you don't obey them, you won't suffer a lot." Paul was very worried, but I heard that the Qi people dispatched a lot of soldiers and cannons this time. Can they really handle it? The Qi people are becoming more and more unfriendly to us now. If they fail again, our life in Guangzhou will be even more difficult. Andrei said indifferently, "I have been in Guangzhou for more than 20 years, and I can't be defeated by some rumors. Besides, the people of Qi are too proud, and the city is full of disturbances before sending troops. Although I don't know how to fight, but doing business is the same as fighting a war. Once people are proud and impetuous, they are not far from failure." Paul breathed a sigh of relief. Andrei laughed again, "But I think Qi Ren will win in the end." Paul was surprised, "My lord." Andrei shook his hand, and said, "The Indian Ocean is still too close to Daki, it is easy for them to send troops, and Daki is now strong and strong. Even if he fails because of his mentality for a while, the opponent will soon adjust, unless..." A glint flashed in Andrei's eyes, and he said in a low voice, "Unless they can kill the Emperor and Prince Rong of Daki." Paul looked at him with that "you're dreaming" expression on his face. Andrei smiled, "You also think I'm dreaming, don't you?" "Yes, Daki's Emperor and Prince are protected by so many people, how could we possibly kill them? That's why I said that the people of Qi will definitely win, although they will win it will be difficult, and there will be a heavy price to pay, but as long as their hearts and minds are there, they will not lose. The Emperor of Daki embodies the hearts of the people, and Prince Rong is the soul of the army." Andrei sighed. "If they don't die, it will be difficult for us to attack Daki militarily. Paul hesitated and said, then why doesn't your lord go to see Lord Louis of France? I have already advised him, and I have done my best to be an ally, but it is his fault that he refused to listen to me, André said indifferently. I am not the Portuguese who is raging in the Indian Ocean this time. We don't need to make it so obvious that people in Chi will suspect us. André patted the old man's shoulder with a smile, and said, you know, we have a good relationship with de Chi's prince, and de Chi is now our most important trading partner in Spain. Paul didn't turn his head around for a while, but his biggest advantage was that he was loyal and obedient to André. Since the adults said not to do too much action, he really stayed in the Chamber of Commerce and didn't go anywhere. At this time, the Daki Pioneer Battalion, which is considered proud soldiers must be defeated, is huddling on a refitted warship and looking at the sea. Standing at the bow of the boat, Hutu used clairvoyance to check the situation at sea, and asked Patriarch Joe, who was boarding the boat while putting on makeup, are you sure you were robbed in this area? Patriarch Joe nodded immediately. We are the pirates we encountered on the 6th day after we set off with the wind, and we are in this area. Hutu lowered his clairvoyance, turned to the little lion and said, I've seen it, and there is nothing unusual. The little lion rubbed his chin. Could it be that he was scared away by the wind in Guangzhou? Hutu glared immediately and said, then what should we do? We can't return without success, right? The two had just arrived in Guangzhou. The next day they went to find Jojo to register and went to the Qianfeng camp. On the third day, when the news gradually spread in Guangzhou, they had already led people to modify the appearance of the warship into a merchant ship, lifted the cannon and set off. The two of them learned formation and tactics from their father since they were young, so they naturally knew the importance of news. Since they dared to spread the news to the entire city of Guangzhou, they must have a way to deal with it. Just before the people in Guangzhou city were still talking about it, and before the businessmen came looking for the police, the twins had already set off with Joe Patriarch and the most elite part of the navy. Of course, they were not the ones who led the army, but Lieutenant Lin Chinxiolin, who stood aside and held up his clairvoyance. The two of them were just the small flag leaders under his hands. He wouldn't let them come on deck. Both teenagers looked at Lin Chinxio with piercing eyes. Lieutenant Lin ignored them and ordered, Yang Fan, turn the rudder and speed up. After giving the order, he turned to look at the two of them, and ordered, go back to the cabin immediately. No one is allowed without the order of the general. Run out. The tigerhead and the little lion immediately clasped their legs and responded, and ran towards the cabin. The tigerhead ran out only to realize that Patriarch Joe was still there, and immediately backed up and carried him back. Lin Chinxio twitched the corners of her mouth, but she still didn't say anything. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Reborn Wife is Farming. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 1335. The boat sailed forward quickly, and in less than half a day, two large sailboats were quickly approaching them. Lin Chinxio narrowed his eyes, and ordered in a deep voice, all officers and men are ready to resist the enemy. The people on board moved instantly, and the people in the cabin immediately prepared their weapons. The artillerymen even ran to the cannon covered by the canvas on the ship, staring at the two ships approaching with piercing eyes. Lin Chinxio asked the soldiers to wave the flag to them. This is a Daki merchant ship, which is a civilian ship. Please retreat quickly. As soon as the semaphore came out, the pirates on the two ships yelled excitedly, and shouted happily, the people of Chi are really idiots. Why do they have to play the semaphore every time before a robbery? Soon, the semaphore on the opposite side changed again. De Chi's merchant ships are under the protection of De Chi's soldiers. Please retreat quickly. This semaphore immediately angered the pirates, and they spit out, hey, what's so great about the Chi people? Isn't it because we snatch their goods like we want to snatch lambs? That's right, What else does Daki have besides having a lot of money? It just happened to be cheaper for us. Raise the flag and let them enjoy our enthusiasm. The two ships rushed over more quickly, and a flag with a skull painted on it was quickly raised. Soon, the two ships gradually became clear, and Linchencio could see the skeleton flag floating faintly on the ship without clairvoyance. 3 rounds of preparation. The orders were issued one by one, while the tiger head and the little lion each held a large sampan and stayed at the side of the ship, followed by 20 people each. As vanguards, they were going to rush to the opposing ship. Linchencio didn't want the two young masters to take such a big risk, but they were lawless. General Joe also said to let them take the lead. He had no choice but to agree, but he was somewhat displeased. It's not that he's afraid that they will steal military merits, but that if something happens to these two people during the battle, then he can only apologize with death. So having such two dignified figures on the team is just annoying. The tiger head and the little lion didn't know what was going on in Linchencio's mind. At this moment, they were staring at the two ships that were approaching with piercing eyes. The two cannons fired at the same time, one left and one right towards the two ships. The pirates on the ship knew that they had been fooled when they saw them tearing off the canvas to reveal the cannons. How could a civilian merchant ship be equipped with 2 cannons? Immediately ordered, "We have been fooled, quickly withdraw, quickly." But the boat is not a human being, and they turn around when they say they turn around. At this time, they are sailing smoothly, and they are still raising the sails in order to speed up. If they want to turn around and leave, they must not only turn the rudder, but also lower the sails. So Hutu and the others saw 2 ships galloping towards them recklessly. 2 torpedoes landed next to the 2 ships, and the water waves made their ships bump. This time Linchencio brought enough ammunition, so he unceremoniously fired 3 cannonballs on each of the 2 ships, and one of the cannonballs fell directly on one of the boats. Not only did the ship break down, but also many people were killed. More importantly, their continuous offensive gave the opponent no chance to bombard them with artillery, and their ship smoothly approached the ship that was damaged by the shells falling on it. Another boat rushed to the rescue. Because of the close range, all 3 ships can no longer use their cannons because they have exceeded the minimum range. They were fully prepared. As soon as the boat approached, 2 rows of soldiers came out with muskets to shoot. When they had shot all the 5 bullets in the guns, the 2 rows behind them would fill up. But when the ship got close enough to use bows and arrows, the pirates were frightened when they saw the densely packed bows and arrows flying over, and their hands and feet became weak. At this moment, Hutu and Zayashi quickly boarded each other's boat with a sampan on their shoulders, and killed them immediately. When the other party's rescue ship rushed over, Linchencio decisively left only 1/3 of the people to deal with the wrecked ship, and the remaining 2/3 turned to resist the rescue pirate ship, covering for Tiger Head and Little Lion. The Tiger Head and the Little Lion were like killing gods, they killed them without leaving a bite, and soon led 40 people to clean up the pirates on board. This sailing ship was not big, and there were only 100 or so pirates on board. Many people were killed by their cannons before. In addition to the enemies killed by bows, arrows, and muskets, they had to clean up only 40 or 50 people. What really gave them a headache was the pirate ship on the opposite side that didn't have much damage. There seemed to be more people on that boat. Linchencio commanded without changing his face, left and right pincers, musketeers in front, archers in the back, attack alternately, commandos prepare sampans. The people on the broken ship quickly gathered on the deck after cleaning up the pirates on the ship. The pirates on the opposite ship saw that their people had been killed, their expressions changed, and they had to grit their teeth and retreat. But it was so easy for them to find someone, how could they let him go like this? They knew that the enmity between the two sides had grown stronger. If they could not kill them all to deter the pirates in the Indian Ocean, then Daki's merchant ships would suffer more cruel revenge in the future. Therefore, Linchencio ordered a full-scale attack. Even the tiger head and the little lion on the broken ship ignored the slowly sinking ship, picked up the pirate's musket on the deck and shot at each other. Such a distance is impossible with a sampan, but you can fly over it by using lightness kung fu, but it is limited to the two brothers and the two hidden guards behind them. He committed suicide, so he could only watch the pirate ship leaving as it gradually distanced itself. Lin Chenxia ordered decisively, "Crash into it." The helmsman immediately turned the bow of the ship and rushed over at a faster speed. The first team and the second team of musketeers are ready to cover, the third team and the fourth team of archers suppress them, and the sixth team and the seventh team are ready to board the boat. The warship shifted its bow, blocking half of the way the pirate ship retreated, just in time to form a pincer attack with the broken ship. The bow of the warship quickly collided with it, and with a bang, the pirate ship moved towards the broken ship. A long distance. Huda quickly grabbed the sampan on the deck and put it on the opponent's ship. It seems that because Huda and the others successfully landed on another pirate ship, the pirates on the ship were very wary of them. Almost as soon as the sampan touched the hull, they went to push the sampan, trying to push it off. The tiger head and the little lion's people also reacted quickly, and immediately picked up their muskets and shot at them. The tiger head and the little lion jumped up, clicked on the sampan, and rushed to the pirate ship, killing them. The two hidden guards followed closely behind, and jumped onto the pirate ship next to the two little masters. The pirate, who was lying on the side of the sampan with a sword and waiting to poke someone, watched four people fly over their heads and land behind them. When they realized that they were going to turn around, they felt a pain in their necks. "I don't know anything. The reborn wife is farming." Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 1336. They knew that the pirates' marksmanship was quite accurate, so they used their light skills and started to walk among the pirates. They used swords and their speed was extremely fast. The pirates didn't even wear armor, so it was too easy to kill them. The pirates had never seen Chinese kung fu before, and they only thought that they were faster. The moment the tiger head threw the sampan, the soldiers on the warship also set up the sampan towards the pirate ship at the same time, and both sides attacked the pirate ship at the same time. Lin Chenxia was in command to suppress the pirates on the pirate ship, and the four tiger heads were covering the pirate ship. The Qi soldiers boarded the pirate ship one after another. Lin Chenxia saw everyone fighting in a melee, and the foreigners were tall and strong, and the Qi people suffered a lot. Immediately shouted, "3 people form a formation to kill the enemy, not to be dispersed." The ammunition on the pirate ship was almost used up, and the only remaining ammunition was used on the fast-moving tiger-headed four, so when they faced the Daki soldiers, they all took out their swords, cold weapons against cold weapon. Lin Chenxia was not afraid of fighting with swords, and immediately ordered the soldiers to line up to kill the enemy. They have known for a long time that foreigners are taller and stronger than their Qi counterparts, so they usually train troops more in formation. If one of them is no match for them, then 2, 3, 5, they have plenty of ways to wear them down. Lin Chenxia stood on the side of the battlefield to command, and quickly got the soldiers together to move forward in an orderly manner. The morale of the soldiers was high, and they quickly occupied half of the ship, forcing the remaining 20 or so people to the stern. The pirate leader looked at his companions lying on the deck, gritted his teeth, and whispered to the people around him, "Jump into the sea." The tiger raised its eyebrows, and looked at the little lion. The figure quickly flashed up to pick up the leaders and smash them among the soldiers. The two guards understood what they meant when they saw the little masters moving. "Hurry up," 4 more people were thrown over in an instant, and the other pirates immediately jumped into the sea, only 2 breaths before and after. The soldiers reacted a little slower, but quickly divided into 2 teams. One team shot the people who fell into the sea with guns and arrows, and the other team tied up the 8 people who fell into the sea. The jaw was removed. Lin Chenxia walked over quickly, glanced at the 8 captives, nodded and said, "That's right, immediately drag them back to the cabin for torture, and spread out to search in the sea area, not allowing any pirates to escape. Report, my lord, we don't understand bird language. Go to Patriarch Joe, he understands. The tigerhead and the little lion immediately volunteered, my lord, let's go, they just spoke English, we have learned it. Lieutenant Lin glanced at them and said calmly, you are responsible for cleaning the battlefield and searching for escaped pirates. Don't think that he didn't see the warning eyes of the two guards behind the two of them. On the third day after Lin Chenxiu and others wiped out the pirates, the port of Guangzhou dispatched a group of vanguards in a noisy manner, followed by 2 warships and merchant ships that needed to be escorted to the sea, heading for the Indian Ocean. Only then did the pirates in the pirate den receive a letter from André, knowing that Daki sent troops to seek justice for Daki's businessmen. Although the several groups of pirates communicated with each other, they were not actually on the same island. After all, they belonged to different countries and factions. Therefore, after they made up their minds and saw the troops sent by Dachi, they decided to take the opportunity to teach them a lesson. Still stay out of the way. And it was precisely because they were doing their own thing that they didn't find out in time that there was no news from a small island occupied by England. But that small island is only a small island controlled by England, and it is not the main force, so everyone doesn't take it seriously. You must know that England not only occupies a large coastal area of India, but also occupies a lot of nearby islands. They only need to discuss with the governor of India, and it is not necessary to send people from each island to discuss. This also gave Lin Chenxiu and others more time to extract confessions from the prisoners. However, the captives were far more stubborn than they had imagined, so they had to find a small island to stop and concentrate on questioning. It has been 3 days since they pried open the mouths of the 2 pirates. They only had 1 crew, so naturally it was impossible to fight all the pirates in the Indian Ocean, and their firearms and ammunition were not enough. Lin Chenxiu's strategy is to take a weak island first, occupy it as their supply base, and then wait for reinforcements to arrive. Then try to find a way to grab the merchants' goods back. From the mouths of the 2 pirates in Songkao, I learned that although the foreigners in this area have agreed to only grab Daki people, their hearts are not on the same page, and there are many conflicts between them. Let's not talk about the politics of the country, they are fighting for the sea area alone, because there are so many merchant ships in Daki, you saw it, and I saw it too, everyone swarmed up to grab it, how much everyone contributes, what is the benefit, there is no agreement on the distribution, so the contradictions between them are not small. Lin Chenxiu only focused on suppressing the bandits, and didn't care much about the situation, but Tigerhead and Little Lion did. Daki's maritime trade fair has been going on forever, and the sea route from Daki to the west is long, and it is impossible for the Daki army to escort them to the west. Therefore, this kind of protection method can be 1 or 2, but it cannot last long, not only because soldiers cannot leaving the mainland for too long, but also because the cost is too huge. Therefore, it is necessary to prevent the recurrence of the phenomenon of foreigners uniting against the Daki people. In this way, the contradictions and conflicts between countries will be very useful. The Tigerhead and the Little Lion took note of the situation of the countries in the Indian Ocean very carefully. Since the conflicts among the countries are already so serious, wouldn't they turn them into deadly enemies if they added more fire? Their mother told them since they were young that there are no permanent enemies or friends in politics, only permanent interests. They didn't believe that they would be more vigilant against Daki than surrounding countries. After all, no matter how powerful Daki is, the threat to them is limited, because they are too far apart, and the biggest conflict is only in trade. The threats to them from neighboring countries are territorial and military, and this is the biggest threat. If you want to ask who is the biggest enemy of Daki, it is naturally Dayuan and Hauxia, these western countries. All of them added up are not as threatening as a small regime in Hauxia. This is not only the cognition of the Tigerhead and the Little Lion, but also the cognition of everyone in the world, including Westerners. The reason why they targeted Daki people together was because of their interests. Because of Daki people, their benefits from maritime trade were greatly reduced. For the sake of benefit, they can temporarily abandon their mutual hatred and cooperate. Naturally, for the sake of benefit, they will one day abandon their current alliance and cooperate with Dachi instead. The Reborn Wife is Farming. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 1337. Although the tiger head and the little lion are bears, what they see when they follow their father is always the big picture of the relationship between countries. Naturally, their vision is much higher than that of Lin Xiaoyi and others, so the two did not agree with Lin Xiaoyi. Proposal to kill the prisoners, said, no more than 8 people, it's not troublesome to take them with us, if they can survive until we return to Daki, it will be more beneficial to us. Lieutenant Lin recalled the widely circulated story about the prince capturing prisoners for ransom. He thought that the 2 young princes wanted to imitate their father, so he calculated the ransom money that the prince had set back then, and found that these 8 people could still earn a lot money. And it is absolutely impossible for the 2 young masters to covet the ransom money, so in the end the money will still be divided among the soldiers. Lieutenant Lin, who was transferred from Jiangsu and Zhejiang, thought so, and those soldiers who had served as soldiers under the prince thought of this before him, so the rumor that the captives could be exchanged for money immediately spread throughout the camp, and the soldiers watched. The eyes of the 8 people all glowed with a layer of green light. The 6 people who refused to recruit could not help but shudder and looked at the soldiers warily. But Qi Bing suddenly became polite to them. Although they were still locked in the darkest cabin on the lowest floor, they were no longer passively beaten and had some basic food to eat. It's not that no one has thought of running away, but Qi Bing has stricter supervision on them. He never leaves the cabin for 24 hours, and there are 4 people at a time. They don't know what happy things they are talking about, and sometimes they will laugh. Laughing, it's a pity they don't understand Chinese. The soldiers are discussing how to capture more prisoners the next time they kill the pirates, and then exchange them for money. The ransom they get for capturing the prisoners is not paid by the whole army, but only shared equally by their vanguard battalion. In this way, they can get a lot of extra money. So the soldiers are happy. The happy soldiers soon ushered in the second task, going to the sea to ambush, waiting for the arrival of the 2nd Pioneer Battalion, and waiting for the escorted merchant ships to arrive in the sea area, and immediately flanking the 2nd Pioneer Battalion if they found traces of pirates. They stayed on this small island for 8 days, and they had already camouflaged the ship again, painted a big skull on the hull, and put the skull flag on the pirate ship on the warship, although it looked like still not like the canvas boats on the western side, but what does it matter? Who said that pirates are not allowed to use the Daki merchant ships they robbed as pirate ships? Most of the Daki merchant ships in the Guangzhou area were produced by the Maritime Bureau, and the construction of the warships was also built by the master craftsmen of the Maritime Bureau. They have some similarities. Before going to sea, they have erased the marks of the warships and simply disguised them. It's a merchant ship, so it's not too difficult to change clothes this time. But ships can be camouflaged, but people cannot, because foreigners and Qi people are too easy to distinguish. Lin Chenxiu could only order the soldiers on the deck to cover their heads and faces, and then put on the clothes of the pirates. In order to avoid revealing their secrets, he also brought a tiger-headed lion with him. Not to reveal stuffing. The refitted pirate ship sailed steadily towards the sea area where they were before, and within 2 hours, they saw Daki's 2 warships, followed by a mighty merchant ship. Lin Chenxiu lowered her clairvoyance and said, "Put up the sails, don't go there yet, look for our 2nd Pioneer Battalion, and see if there are any traces of the pirates." The 2nd Pioneer Battalion arrived at the sea area at night. They furled their sails and hit it early. They saw a pirate ship appearing in the sea area from a distance. Before they had time to be happy, they found a red ribbon wrapped around it. Jojo immediately twitched the corners of his mouth, put down his clairvoyance and said, "It's my own. General, our warship is escorting the merchant ship, do you want to set sail? Wait a little longer, but you can prepare." At the same time, the pirate ship that was gradually approaching here also found the two ships with their sails off. The pirates on board immediately cursed. The ships with their sails on are hard to spot, and they must have appeared in the sight of each other at this time. It's impossible to escape. The sea stretches as far as the eye can see, but there are actually blind spots. These pirates live in the sea all year round, and they are familiar with the sea area, so they naturally know how to avoid others' sight. But Daki's soldiers are not bad either. Although they are not very familiar with the sea area, they should have a lot of knowledge, so it is difficult for people to find the direction where the ship is docked. When everyone finds each other, it will be very difficult to avoid each other's sight, unless you turn around and leave. But the pirates are not cowards, since they dared to come, naturally they would not leave so easily. As a result, all the ships gradually appeared and began to block the sea area. Linchencio asked someone to raise the canvas first, and waited quietly for Daki's warship to arrive. Naturally, the two warships in the distance also spotted these pirate ships, and the head lieutenant immediately ordered the merchant ships to dock, and the warships went up first to open the way. Merchant ships did not dare to intervene in the war, they almost stopped when the captain gave an order, and some even wanted to find a nearby island to stop first. The two warships quickly left the merchant fleet and came forward with the wind and waves. From a distance, the soldiers signaled and ordered the pirate ships to get out of the way. These were Daki's warships and merchant ships, and they had no right to stop them. Linchencio counted and said, "There are 5 pirate ships in sight, and we have 6 ships, but they don't attack the 2nd Vanguard Battalion, they don't respond to the semaphore of the Daki warship, and they don't even communicate with each other. Communication, it can be seen that the relationship between them is not harmonious, it can be used." The pirates were indeed not at peace, because the 5 ships that came belonged to 4 countries, and they were not at peace with each other. Portugal and Italy are at odds, so the 2 ships are far apart, and England and France are deadly enemies. At least recently, they hate each other. 2 of the pirate ships belong to England. But in the eyes of other pirates, the situation is more serious. What really makes them unwilling to do it is that England has 3 pirate ships here. That's right, the skull flag that Linchencio and the others pulled up belonged to England. Therefore, in the eyes of the pirates, there were 6 pirate ships here, but 3 belonged to England. And England has always acted domineeringly, and the coastal areas of India are in its hands. It should be said that apart from Italy, England has the greatest power in this area. They are not sure whether they can get enough benefits after taking down Daki's warships and merchant ships. What if the 3 pirate ships in England join forces to take all the things? Especially France, they distrust England the least, so they have been slow to do it. And on the 2 pirate ships in England, the pirates cursed endlessly. Didn't they agree that only 2 ships would be released? Why did 3 ships come out? Even if you are crazy about money, you should use your brains. 2 ships are for deterrence, and 3 ships are for intimidation. They have 3 ships, so naturally they don't want to take the lead, otherwise, the 3 of them can wipe out Daki's warships. In the end, they won't exhaust Daki's hatred, and they have to distribute the benefits to others. It hurts to think about it. Anyway, they have 3 ships, Daki's fleet can't beat them anyway, and pirates from other countries don't dare to compete with them, so it's better to wait. Under such considerations and scruples, everyone waited motionlessly for the Daki warship to approach. Jojo was very happy to see it. As soon as the Daki warship entered the battle circle, he immediately ordered to bombard the Portuguese pirate ship. After Jojo's action, Linchencio immediately ordered the artillery to aim at the French warship. In a short period of time, the two sides reached a tacit understanding, sowed discord, and then let them eat dogs. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Reborn Wife is Farming. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 1338. The French pirates who were attacked were instantly furious and shouted, "This is a conspiracy, it is England's conspiracy. Attack, attack back with all your strength." As soon as the captain gave the order, the French gunners immediately filled the gunpowder and rushed to the nearest English pirate ship. Now it was the English captain's turn to be angry. These French blind men, don't they see that the pirate ship that attacked their ship is in the northwest? The words were so scolding, but he still turned the bow of the ship neatly and confronted France. Linchencio was dumbfounded, and murmured, "No one doubts our identities. Turning a traitor before the battle, everyone should suspect the traitor first, right? How could it instigate the other two English pirate ships? This is because Linchencio does not understand the relationship between England and France in recent years. The two countries have been at war for almost 100 years, and the war has intensified in recent years. Many of their relatives and friends died at the hands of the enemy, so they seem to be robbing Daki together. However, the hatred between each other is much deeper than that of Daki. So it is quite normal for the English to turn to deal with the French before the battle. At this time, the captains of the other two English pirate ships said, "Although I have to praise the heroic decision of the opposite brother, I have to say that his timing is not very good. Yes, he should take down Daki's caravan before dealing with the French ships." At this time, no one doubted Linchencio's identity. On the other side, Jojo led the 2nd Pioneer Battalion to fight fiercely with the Italian pirate ships. The Portuguese pirate ships left their battle circle and watched from afar without intending to intervene. This made the captain of the Italian pirate ship furious, saying, "This group of hateful Portuguese, they clearly agreed to cooperate, but they turned their backs on their promises. It's really hateful." Seeing this, Jojo bit the Italian pirate ship even more, and at the same time made people guard against the Portuguese warship. Seeing Linchencio in the distance, he decisively blasted Portugal, drawing it into the battle circle. This piece of sea area suddenly scuffled. When Daki's two warships rushed over, the French pirate ship had been blasted and was sinking into the water for silence. The other two English pirate ships gradually came to their senses and shouted, "That is not our English ship, we have been fooled." However, the distance between the ship and the ship is constant, and the communication basically depends on the semaphore. At this time, it is useless for them to just shout out, because no one can hear it except their own crew. At this time, the battle was fierce. Not only did no one pay attention to their semaphore, they also had no time to play the semaphore. With the addition of the two warships, the situation on the field immediately became clear. When the sun set, the sea was dyed red, and the two pirate ships in England were the last to be destroyed. Before that, some pirates from the other three countries had escaped, so Jojo met Linchencio, looked at the Red Sea, smiled and said, "You are so good at sowing dissension, and the Western countries should be more lively after today." Linchencio didn't dare to take credit for it, and said, "This plan was offered by the two young masters, not the work of the last general. You are the captain. Without your consent, their wit is useless. You don't have to be humble in front of me." Jojo turned around and said, "Interrogate the pirates immediately and find out where they hide their cargo. We will set off immediately." Jojo still asked the two warships to go back to find the caravan, and asked them to dock in the Nanyang area to rest and wait for them to clean up the pirates before going on the road. The number of pirates captured this time was large enough, and Daki had more interrogators. Therefore, many people survived the punishment every year and were recruited on the spot. After Jojo rested all night, he divided his troops into two groups to fight for the goods seized by the merchants. The merchant ships docked in Nanyang watched Daki's army show off their might, and if they saw the right time to do some business with the Aborigines in Nanyang, they would not lose money. Officials and businessmen from Western countries stationed in the Indian Ocean were shocked by Daki's military action. The Governor of England in India sent envoys to protest Daki's massacre, and solemnly stated that Daki's actions had touched England's territory. Interest: the Indian Ocean is their sphere of influence in England. The prefect of Guangzhou received the protest letter, curled his lips, and said disdainfully to Lai, "Please go back and tell your governor, first, the Indian Ocean does not belong to England's sphere of influence, it belongs to India and all surrounding countries. Dachi is only a few days away by boat, but how long does it take for you to reach the Indian Ocean from England? We are not ashamed to say that it belongs to my Dachi's sphere of influence. Secondly, my Daki's warships are to destroy pirates. Those pirates are devoid of humanity, wantonly plundering the goods of our Daki people. At any rate, the prefect of Guangzhou is also a Jinchi, and his eloquence is so good that he can't help it." At this time, although he didn't say dirty words, he expressed his meaning very clearly. "You Westerners are despicable, shameless, and vicious, and now you still have the nerve to find a come on, you don't even want to be ashamed. Since you can't restrain the people, then we, Daki, don't mind helping you discipline them and teach you what it means to obey the law." In addition, the prefect of Guangzhou also actively contacted the Academy of Lifen, hoping that they could contact the masters who came from India, expressing that Daki felt the same way as India and neighboring countries in Southeast Asia, and was willing to do a little bit in the matter of aggression against the West. The Southeast Asian countries and the Central Plains have always had a tributary relationship. Even if India is a big country, it once admired the prosperous Tang dynasty, and the relationship between the two sides is not bad. Compared with the Westerners with different skin color and hair color than them and who are not so friendly, they obviously have a better impression of Dachi. Especially for the natives of the countries in Southeast Asia and the various islands, for them, the Central Plains has always been the upper country. Even if the upper country has changed several dynasties, they are willing to respect them provided it is beneficial. But now that Dachi has just leaked a little news, all countries have sent envoys to the DPRK. Foreigners not only occupy their land, require them to plant all kinds of strange crops, but also require them to pay a lot of extra taxes, and even they can't even keep their long hair, they must shave or cut it off, and they must believe in religion. God knows what God is. They have only heard of the Jade Emperor and Buddha, and of course, they believe in their ancestors most. So when they heard that Daki was robbed by merchants and Westerners, he stood with them, and they all came to seek refuge. The prefect of Guangzhou did not expect that a random idea of his own would have such an impact. After receiving the letter from the Lifen Academy, he was very excited and began to use his brains to manage the matter seriously. At this time, Jojo and the others who were far away at sea did not know about this situation, because they were very busy in the past 3 months. The Reborn Wife is Farming. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 1339. After the big battle in which 5 pirate ships were destroyed, Jojo led his men to dig out the nearby pirates' dens one after another, and found countless merchants' goods. Because the goods were large and expensive, the soldiers hid some of them privately when they rushed in. Jojo felt that this was not good for their long-term cooperation with the merchants, but he also wanted to destroy the pirates, so he couldn't keep an eye on them all the time, so he simply handed over the matter to the merchants. Give the little lion Chi Wen's hung. There are 3 reasons. First, Chi Wen's hung will not covet the money, so he will not keep it privately. Second, Chi Wen's hung has a high status and can overwhelm the soldiers. Third, this kid is careful and wants to slip away from under his nose. Money is hard. In summary, the little lion was left behind. The 2 brothers thought they could fight side by side on the battlefield, but they didn't expect to be separated after participating in 4 battles together. Huda said with tears in his eyes that he would definitely kill the little lion's share. The little lion twitched the corner of his mouth and said, "As long as you come back alive, it's fine." Huda turned and left. The little lion sighed worriedly, and told the two hidden guards to follow Huda. The two hidden guards hesitated, and the little lion smiled and said, "I'm only responsible for counting the stolen goods. It's not dangerous. If you are reckless, you should follow him and advise him. Don't tell him to take risks. If he gets stubborn, knock him out. If something goes wrong, I will bear it, my lord." The little lion thought of the behavior of the hidden guards in the past, and slightly threatened, "Don't let us go like before." The hidden guards looked at each other, bowed their heads in response, and turned to catch up with Hudu. The little lion took his team to count the stolen goods on the island, and found that besides the goods of their Daki merchants, there were also a lot of gold, silver, and jewels. The ships were all used for patrolling and fighting, and it was impossible to expect the merchants to come and take things away immediately. Because the remuneration of the soldiers is calculated according to the value of the goods, how long will it take to count the value of so many goods? You must know that he has to follow behind the vanguard battalion to count the spoils of other pirate dens, so it can't be spent in one place. So the little lion rubbed his chin, and said decisively that they would occupy a place nearby, transport the spoils up there to take care of them, and then calculate the value with the merchants after he freed his hand. The little lion did what he said. Combining climate, geography, and distance factors, he finally chose the southeast of Luzon, where there is a natural port. The most important thing is that the people who occupy that port are Westerners. And there were only a few dozen people on the other side, so the little lion simply brought people to take those dozens of people captive as pirates. Anyway, they were similar to pirates. After occupying this port, they began to ask the nearby villages to pay tribute and tax. As soon as the little lion rushed up and arrested these dozens of foreigners, the head of the nearby village came to see him and thank him for saving them from the fire and water. The little lion was slightly embarrassed, expressing that he wanted to temporarily use this port and nearby areas to set up camp, lest they would think too much. The little lion said sincerely, "We will leave when our general returns in triumph." The village head was slightly relieved when he heard that the Chi people did not intend to occupy their land, and smiled, wrinkled his face, expressing that these lands and ports are for free use. After returning to the village chief strictly ordered everyone to join the Chi people. Although the Chi people are not as fierce as those foreigners, they will take out flags to occupy the land as soon as they come up, and they will not threaten them with muskets. It's just in case, so it's better for them to stay away. With this in mind, everyone watched Daki's soldiers from afar. It was discovered that they occupied the houses of the Westerners after they went ashore. They were forced by the Westerners to repair them. They cut down the trees, transported the stones, built the houses, and even the front fences were theirs to tie. But looking at those Chi soldiers with swords on their waists, no one dared to speak. Fortunately, Chi Bing didn't ask them to help them build houses anymore, but cut down trees and built some barracks next to them. And every morning, afternoon, and night, the port is under martial law, and everyone is forbidden to appear there. The villagers are afraid that Chi soldiers will kill people, so they really dare not approach. A few days later, Chi Bing ran out of food, and a Chi Bing ran into the village to find the village chief. The village chief went there with a face full of apprehension, and then returned to the village with a few horses full of fantasy. That night, a few bags of coarse grain were delivered to the Chi army barracks. Chi Bing even exchanged cloth with them for food. Many people in the village save their rations and take them to the barracks to exchange for cloth, and then take the cloth to the big towns 4 mountains away to exchange for grain and salt, and they can make a lot of money. Chi people are better than foreigners. This is the common understanding of the villagers and the chiefs of several nearby villages. The little lion is just doing this with a feeling of guilt. After all, what they occupy now is not the nameless island, but the territory of Luzon. They trade food. The little lion thinks that country people are hospitable and sincere. Then, things went in a strange direction. Chi Bing and the natives lived together in harmony. After 2 months, the little lion continued to bring back the trophies from outside, and put the goods with the logo of Daki Company in the 2 big houses separately, and the others were piled up on the other side in a chaotic manner, and then let the merchants drive the merchant ships to come claim it here. Knowing that Chi Bing has recovered most of their goods, the merchants happily set off for Luzon. And when several big businessmen approached this port, they couldn't help but feel agitated, secretly said, "This place happens to be in Nanyang, and it is also a natural port. It can not only be used as a hub, but also be used as a supply for merchant ships. I just don't know if the officials have developed it." Plan. The little lion didn't know what they were thinking, and received everyone politely and thoughtfully. These are the employers of the military, so naturally they should have a good attitude. As soon as the merchants saw the little lion's face that resembled Prince Rong, and looked at his age, everyone guessed his identity in an instant, and immediately respected him very much. When they went to the warehouse to claim their goods, no one was there. Dare to be slippery. The little lion felt that the work was really easy. Except for the difficulty in mobilizing and arranging the ships, everything else went smoothly. Contrary to the calmness on Luzon Island, the situation in the Indian Ocean can be said to be choppy, changing day by day. Because of the testimony of France, Italy, and Portugal, England was suspected by Western countries of ulterior motives and colluded with Daki to entrap them. England, on the other hand, stated that it was France's framing, because they also suffered heavy losses, and because the Indian Ocean was mainly his sphere of influence, his loss was the greatest. But it is clear that other countries are not in the mood to listen to their excuses, and several meetings broke up unhappy. And when they were quarreling, Jojo led the troops to occupy one island after another, and cleaned up the pirates on them. If they were natives, he would beat them up, seize part of the property, and distribute the rest to the pirates to force them when returning home. If you encounter Western pirates, capture them if you can, and kill them if you cannot. Recently, the captives they sent to Daki needed to be packed in a ship, and then escorted with a warship. Although other Western countries have constant conflicts, they have gradually begun to abandon their differences and cooperate to resist Chi soldiers. But they have too few people, and Daki is too close to here. It only takes 5 days to get there, so after 3 months, the number of troops sent by Daki to the Indian Ocean has reached 80,000, which is twice the total number of foreigners in the nearby countries. More. The Reborn Wife is Farming. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 1340. Seeing that the situation was getting worse and worse, the governors stationed here could not sit still. The governor of England in India immediately invited all countries to discuss. At the meeting, his first words were, "Friends, it is impossible for our England to bring in Daki, a wolf. What good does this do for our England?" The countries are silent, and they have calmed down during this time, realizing that they were deceived by Dachi at the beginning. When Dachi attacked the Indian Ocean region, England was the one that suffered the most damage, because they had the greatest power in this region. Daki is too close to the South Sea and the Indian Ocean. If this male lion is also interested in this place, their territory will be compressed like never before. No matter how many conflicts each country has at home, at least for now, in this sea area, their interests are the same, and they are jointly threatened by Daki. Someone said, "We should protest to Daki." The Spanish envoy, who is also a great seafaring country, sneered, "Protest against them to destroy the pirates who robbed the merchant ships of Daki." The faces of the envoys from all over the world changed slightly, and the Spanish envoy continued, "Our country has warned you a long time ago that Dachi is different from the cowardly and tolerant Dezhou. Just look at their policies in the waters of Guangzhou. They are very strong and will not. The robbery of merchant ships is allowed, and it still happens on such a large scale. The governor of England said displeasedly, "This is not the sea area of Guangzhou. This is already far away from Daki, and it is not within their sphere of influence. Their hands are stretched too far." The Spanish envoy shrugged, wanting to say that this place is farther away from England, but Spain also has a colony here, so there is really no need to ridicule themselves for the sake of Daki. The governor of England said, "We can't let things go any further, we must have a talk with Daki." The governor of England changed the protest to talk, apparently softening his attitude. The other countries looked at each other and nodded. Then he quickly selected the envoy, and set off for Daki the next day. However, Jojo's actions did not stop. The 80,000 soldiers' salaries, ships, fresh water, food, and other supplies were expensive, so it was impossible for them to stop, not to mention their arrival was warmly welcomed by Southeast Asian countries and India. Even if it is for the prestige of Qi, they can't just retreat. Daki has always been the hegemony in this area, and it must take an attitude in the face of provocative Western countries. Therefore, Jojo had no psychological burden at all, while fighting pirates and collecting spoils, while waiting for the court's conclusion. And the DPRK and China also fell out over this. The 3-month military expenditure is more than 200,000 taels. The budget-minded officials said that they can use the money to build 2 large water conservancy projects or to rest the Yellow River to avoid flooding in rainy seasons and save thousands of people from fire and water. Among the officials said that it was not worth the court's great effort just for the sake of individual businessmen. As soon as the urgent document from the prefect of Guangzhou was delivered to the capital, half of the officials in the DPRK and China expressed that they could take this opportunity to reconcile with the Western countries and let them pay compensation, so that Daki's face was saved and his face was also gained. Chi Heiran scoffed at this, and wrote a family letter to his 2 sons, asking them to find a way to take root in Nanyang, but foreigners were kept out of the country. This family letter is said to be an expectation for the 2 sons, rather it is an instruction to Jojo. He is now only Prince Rong, not the Deputy Minister of the Ministry of War, so he cannot give him instructions on the surface, but the instructions in private are okay. What's more, Jojo was promoted by him. The letter was sent to the little lion first. He was afraid that the tiger head would not understand, so he took a pen and added a sentence at the end, after reading it, "Hand over the letter to General Zhou Shen." Jojo looked at the tiger head that Le Dion came to deliver the letter, then looked at the last line of words, and twitched the corners of his mouth. Wouldn't the 2 young masters take another piece of paper to add the sentence, or you would write the sentence after reading it? It's okay to tear off the words, so that he knows things he shouldn't know. Jojo returned the letter to Hutu after reading it. Seeing that he folded it and put it in his arms, he couldn't help but said, "Third young master, why don't you burn this letter?" Hutu blinked and asked, "Why? There are no secrets above that cannot be known to others." Jojo bit the bullet and said, "Otherwise, you can tear up the last sentence and destroy it. There is no problem with this letter from beginning to end. At most, it is Prince Rong's expectation for the 2 young princes to make great achievements, but the sentence with the little lion added at the end is different. Even a fool who read it knows that it is the prince's instigation. He is a general in the imperial court." And the little lion on Luzon was also patting his head in distress. "I forgot to ask the tiger head to take back the letter and destroy it. Forget it, Jojo should be able to do this, otherwise he would be too stupid." Thinking of this, the little lion put the matter aside with peace of mind, and began to think about how to implement his father's take root in Nanyang and keep foreigners out of the country. Western countries now have colonies in Nanyang, and when Chi Heiran killed the pirates in the Guangdong waters, he once provided them with food and weapons in order to allow the Nanyang countries to contain these foreigners more. However, that only slowed down the pace of aggression by Western countries. In recent years, many territories in Southeast Asia and the east and south coasts of India have been invaded, and the Aborigines have been enslaved. Now all countries in Southeast Asia know that Western countries have angered Shangguo by plundering Daki's merchant ships, and now Shangguo is sending troops to exterminate these monster pirates. People in power in various countries have submitted their credentials to China one after another, hoping that Daki can enter their country and help them drive out the invaders. They are willing to increase their offerings every year. The countries in Southeast Asia understand that the pirates from the Western countries not only value their land, but also their citizens, completely treating them as people without sovereignty, and planting flags to indicate that this no man's land belongs to them land. The indigenous people who have lived on this land for thousands of years. These years they have to pay a lot of taxes, and they were robbed by foreigners to be slaves in the farms, to work for them, to build houses, and even to do some handicrafts. Of course, these are free of charge. Runny nose. At most, Shangguo will take a fancy to their gold mines and silver mines and so on. Their people will still have money to mine. Other than that, there is no conflict of interest. If you pay a few gold and silver mines, Shangguo can let these foreigners, they are very willing to be kicked out of their country. No one would think that Daki would seize their land like foreigners, because Daki has abundant products, a vast country, and people are rich, while the countries in Southeast Asia are too poor. Take Luzon as an example. Most of Luzon is still tribal system, people in the tribe still wear animal skins and leaves, and few can afford cloth. There are no advantages for Dachi to occupy such a place, but there are a lot of disadvantages. The most important thing is that the Central Plains has never gone out to sea to occupy this area. They only need to respect the Central Plains as the upper country. But they often received more gifts than tribute. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Reborn Wife is Farming. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 1341. Based on this, the Nanyang countries, from the royal family to the common people, all welcomed the generals and soldiers of Daki very much. General Zhou and the others could receive some local specialties and food for the army wherever they went. The little lions in the port are also very polite. Officials from Dachan who were half a month away from here even rushed over to deliver 2 carts of food to the little lion. The little lion accepted it after thinking about it, turned around and gave them a box of silk and satin. These are all high-quality silks and satins left by the pirates, a piece of tens of taels of silver, so exquisite and silky. The officials who came here looked straight at it, and they felt that this trip was worth it. The little lion took the opportunity to express their desire to buy some land with Luzon, and he said with a worried face, "From my Daki to Nanyang, all Western fleets pass through this area. However, in recent years, pirates have been rampant here. The people of Chi are often robbed, but our country is far away from here. Even if I want to, I can't save them, so I want to represent the imperial court to buy or rent a piece of land with them for soldiers to garrison." As if he was afraid that the other party would be disgusted, the little lion immediately said, "Don't worry, the soldiers we stationed are only used to protect the ships of Daki, and will never interfere with your country's local affairs. If there is any conflict with your people here, we will follow your laws to deal with." The official's eyes lit up, and he asked cautiously, "Then I wonder if the upper kingdom can take pity on the lower people and help us drive out the foreigners." The little lion frowned, and said in a deliberate manner, "If they don't do evil things, I, Daki, won't rashly interfere in the affairs of your 2 countries. It means that unless they provoke Daki first, or do some evil things, they can take care of them, otherwise they will have no name." The official breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that as long as the people from Shangguo didn't just refuse outright, it would be fine. Because Luzon is close to Daki and has a superior port, many coastal areas have been occupied by foreigners. With the development of Daki's maritime trade, the royal family and officials of the country also know the importance of the port. It's not that they don't want to follow Daki to make a fortune. Get rich, yet they have lost their edge. The good natural ports along the coast have been occupied by people, and they want to take them back, but what they use are knives, and the foreigners use guns, and their force is not at the same level. They can also build ports in places that are not occupied by people, but let alone whether they have money, even if they have spent money to build them, can they embrace them under the eyes of foreigners. Therefore, Luzon can only pin its hopes on Shangguo. After all, the little lion was only 15 years old, and he kindly refused in the pitiful eyes of the officials, so he could only murmur, then, why not build this harbor, extend it and make it bigger, and then make 2 copies, one for you Luzon for personal use, 1 copy will be used by all of us. The official was overjoyed, but his face was full of bitterness and he said, but Xiaguo is poor, what is the money for the construction of the harbor? The little lion raised his brows and said, I'm only a small flag, but I can't be the master of such a big event. The officials don't believe that you can even give up half of the port, so can't you afford the money for the construction of the port? He knew that the young man in front of him was the son of Prince Shangquorong, and his status was very noble. If he could get his consent, then Luzon would open up a way to make money and find a big backer. Before the official came, he had been instructed by the emperor of his country, so he had to agree to anything he said. Judging from the performance just now, although this young man is stable and careful, he is kind-hearted. In addition, he is still young and thin-skinned. This kind of person can be soft or tough. He just needs to say that the people of Luzon are a little pitiful. When he mentioned that the foreigners are powerful and the people of our country are often shot and robbed innocently, the other party really couldn't bear it, but the little lion shook his head and refused, expressing that money was a big deal for him. Can't be the master. The official was not discouraged at all. He felt that if he came twice more, the other party would soften his heart and agree. It would be even better to ask the chiefs of several nearby villages to come and beg. When the officials left, the soldiers in the tent said anxiously, Chief Banner, you can't listen to him. It will cost a lot of money to build the harbor. The imperial court has opinions on the military expenses spent by sending troops for us, let alone build a port for them. The little lion admitted that he was soft-hearted at the beginning, but later he became more sober, and now he was even calmer. He stroked his chin and said, I think this is a good thing. I not only want to help them repair the half-port, I also want to help them introduce merchants from Daki, and lead them to do sea trade business together. The little lion grinned, besides, my Daki's good breed can also lend them some credit. Although he only stayed here for 3 months, the little lion also visited the natives' fields. How can I put it this way, it is really a waste of land, no matter in terms of farming techniques, farm tools, or grain seeds. Behind. And one time he went deep into the mountains and encountered a tribe. Although that tribe recognized the royal family, it existed independently and only paid some animal skins as tribute every year. Living by hunting and gathering. There is almost no cold here, so it is really suitable for growing crops. The little lion thinks that Luzon can be developed into a food supply base for Daki. They can give them grain seeds on credit, support them with farm tools, and teach them how to plant, as long as they sell the surplus grain to Daki. Moreover, the rise in the strength of the Nanyang countries is also very important for resisting the invasion of the Western countries. They can't always rely on them to support so many countries in one country, right? The little lion's intentions are crackling, but he is not the character of the big brother and the tiger head who say that the wind is the rain. He has always been thoughtful. Opinions, and make a decision after summarizing. It's the same now. He stayed up all night to list all the possibilities before writing letters to the crown prince, eldest brother and brother-in, asking for their opinions. As for Hudu's opinion, he ignored it. Just say, I listen to you. So he felt that there was no need to waste paper anymore. The little lion put the letter into the envelope, thought it was not good, took out the letter again, and added my brother, little leopard at the beginning of the first line. Only then did the prince, eldest brother, Xiaoan and Xiao Beizai write on the envelope, and the envelope was written densely. When handing the letter to the soldiers, he thought of what he said today, that the imperial court had objections to the cost of their troops, and immediately waved his hand and said, "The spoils in warehouses, no, pack 20 boxes and send it to the capital." The little lion grinned at the bright-eyed soldiers. "I will have someone send a ledger to the capital alone, and my father will wait in the capital to count the spoils." Everyone immediately changed their minds. Prince Rong hated corruption the most. They were just soldiers and wanted to survive. In fact, it wasn't just them, even the prefects along the road, the governor didn't dare to lay hands on the 20 boxes. Didn't you see the officials of the Metropolitan Procuratorate waiting with wide-eyed eyes? What's more, the account book has already been sent to the capital. Who dares to do it? The officials in the capital shut their mouths instantly when they saw the 20 boxes sent to the capital and realized that they were not even 1/10 of the spoils. Sure enough, is there any more profitable occupation in this world than robbing pirates? The reborn wife is farming. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 1342. Based on the value of the gold, silver, and jewels sent to the capital, their trophies are fully enough for the military expenses of this expedition, and there is even a surplus. Since this is the case, they naturally have no reason to stop it. The civil servants no longer stopped, and began to hold back to help Daki regain his position. First, he notified the countries to hand in their credentials, and Daki reissued the imperial edict, and then contacted and cooperated with other countries to resist these Westerners. Give support to those who can support them, and support them spiritually if they can't. Talents from the imperial court can make suggestions much faster than the little lions themselves. When Jojo was still leading his men on expeditions around the sea, Daki began to solemnly protest to Western countries, hoping that they would restrain their citizens and not infringe on the legitimate rights and interests of Daki's people, and return all the looted goods within a time limit. Otherwise, Daki's army will never let the pirates go. Seeing the unprecedented toughness of the imperial court, the prefect of Guangzhou was able to stand up straight and confront the envoys from Western countries. He didn't let them enter Beijing at all, he only said that it is okay for them to take back the army. They must wipe out the people of their own country who have committed crimes in the Southeast Asia and the Indian Ocean, and return all the property of Daki they looted, and compensate them for the various losses of the people of Daki. The prefect of Guangzhou felt that his request was very reasonable. He hadn't asked for an official apology yet. Who didn't know that the governors were behind those pirates? It's a pity that the envoys from other countries obviously felt that the other party was going too far, and they all started arguing, thinking that Dachi was going too far. The prefect of Guangzhou is not in a hurry to argue with them. Anyway, they have 80,000 soldiers at sea now. The sea battle can not only train their soldiers of Daki, but also shock them and gain a lot of spoils of war. After this incident, I'm afraid few people would dare to attack Daki's merchant ships again, right? The envoys of the Western countries were arguing with the officials of Daki, but Jojo and the little lion were not slow at all, and within 3 months they robbed most of the goods that were robbed by the merchants of Daki. The two sides quickly settled the settlement, and the merchants happily paid 20% of the value, and the pockets of the Guangdong Navy quickly bulged. In order to establish a good relationship between the two parties, so that the Navy can be more willing to support them in the future, they also allocated a part of the money to the soldiers who died this time, and sent them to their homes along with their share and pension. Merchants engaged in maritime trade all have money, and each person has at least 20 taels. Jojo ruled the army strictly, and this part of the money was sent to the families of the fallen soldiers. And just after they dealt with this point, the imperial court negotiated with the countries that came to vote for their credentials one after another. Daki may set up guards in suitable places in Nanyang countries as appropriate to protect Daki's passing merchant ships. Considering that Daki occupied the land of the lower country, the upper Congress rewarded some things as compensation. The envoys from Luzon secretly approached the officials of the Lifan Yuan, saying that the son of Prince Rong's family agreed to set up a guard with them in exchange for helping them build half of the seaport. Lifan Academy has long received an order from His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, and upon hearing this, he expressed that he would check it out. Luzon's envoy left anxiously. But the officials of the Lifan Academy turned around and spread the news. When the envoys from other countries came to him one after another, they said that they didn't need too much reward from Shangguo, as long as they could get a share of the sea trade. Or Shangguo can help them deal with foreigners. Forget about gold, silver, and jewelry. Li Fanyuan was satisfied in his heart, but dealt with them with a bitter face. In less than a month, the envoys from various countries returned to their home countries with the answers they wanted, and helped the soldiers of Daki to build guard posts and ports in the coastal areas of various countries. Of course, all the money is paid out, and they provide labor, which is paid labor, and the Aborigines have made a lot of money because of this. When the Western countries realized that something was wrong, they were completely unable to stop it, because these natives welcomed the army and civilians of Daki to settle in, unlike them who forcibly landed on their land. They wanted to send troops to make trouble, but Daki now had a supply point and increased the number of people. In addition, the natives of various countries began to resist them on a large scale, and they were simply too busy to take care of themselves. And Jojo took this opportunity to visit all the pirates' dens in this area, snatched the islands occupied by pirates, listed them as the territory of Daki, and then built guards on them, or directly handed them over to counterfeiters who had already started to make in this area. Pirates are run by the military and civilians of Daki. When the Western countries quelled the uprisings within their sphere of influence, looking back, many islands were occupied by Dachi, and Dachi led the Nanyang countries to form a balanced situation with them. Satisfied with seeing it, the little lion smiled at the unshaven tiger head and said, "In this way, we can live a stable year. After the spring, let mother spread the harvest grain to Luzon, starting from Luzon, and spreading the harvest to Luzon grain seeds are promoted." The little lion laughed and said, "The strength of the countries in Southeast Asia has increased, can these foreigners easily trouble us?" Hudu scratched his head and asked, "I think it's a good idea for them to build this colony." The little lion rolled his eyes at him and said, "You think everyone is stupid? The people in the colonies will definitely revolt after being oppressed in this way. What can the colonists do then? And I have nothing to lose. Is it necessary to colonize them?" The little lion said seriously, "Since the Zhou dynasty, our Central Plains has not engaged in crusade against overseas countries, and the countries in Southeast Asia are very poor. There is really no need to increase our burden. Just buy a mine here to mine, buy a piece of land to cultivate the land, and build a guard." "I'm talking about the land in the West," Tigerhead said with sparkling eyes. "Don't they like to colonize? Then what do you think will happen when these foreigners find out that their country is also colonized one day?" The little lion's eyes drifted a bit. Hudu stroked the stubble on his chin and said, "I think Little Leopard's plan can be implemented. Let more businessmen go to the western side to do business, and ship all the raw materials there to our Daki, first control their economy, and then recruit to control their politics." Hutiou's eyes flashed with hostility and said, "Tell them to bully the weak, and let them taste what the weak are like." Some time ago, they landed on the Indian island to supply fresh water, but they encountered a group of people from England who were massacring a village, and the children were not spared. Hudu had never seen such a tragic situation. He had always fought people with real knives and guns on the battlefield. Those infants, for the first time, he felt his blood freeze. Therefore, he is now full of hostility towards the Westerners, wishing to let those massacres feel that feeling, but unfortunately they arrived too late, only stopped less than half of the people, and the rest escaped. The little lion knocked down the tiger's hand, looked at the stubble on his chin and said, "Hurry up and shave, isn't it just stubble, it's ugly to keep." As soon as Hutu's hostility subsided, he immediately protected his chin, and flatly refused, "No, I want to grow a beard, I'm already an adult."